Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say. We just hit noon. My name is Stephanie Neely. I'm the marketing director here at CEA. I hope you are all here for ChatGPT in the Workplace, sponsored by the Central Valley HR Hotline. Want to make sure everybody's in the right place. Before we begin the presentation, we're going to have a few housekeeping things to go over. So this is a good time to make sure you've got some water, got some snacks, whatever it is you're going to need to get through the next hour. We're going to have a lot of great information coming your way. All right. Throughout this presentation, your audio will be muted, but we're going to ask for your comments, participation, any other thoughts through the chat box, which is the single speech bubble at the bottom of your screen. The slide handouts for this presentation were attached to the email reminder that was sent out. I'll also pop them into the chat box shortly. If you need any additional help with any technical issues or handouts, please let me know in the chat box and I will help you out. This presentation will be recorded and will be available through the Central Valley HR hotline at a later date. And we'll also have a survey pop up at the very end of this webinar. We love getting your feedback on these presentations. Let us know how much you loved it, what you think we could do a little bit better next time, any topics you would like to hear next. We love getting all of your thoughts and opinions, and it really helps us improve our webinars experience going forward. All right, we have a wonderful speaker here with you today. We've got Training and Coaching Director Jessica Rivera. I'm going to pass it over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome everybody. It's great to be here with you today to talk about ChatGPT and why we should be paying attention to this. Before I go into the material, though, I have to give a shout out to Central Valley, all of you, and the hotline for employers for all of you. All of these counties are involved with this and are able to contact us for questions you have regarding human resources, questions you might have, and knowing that you have this support and it's a no cost to you as a hotline at CEA. We talk to thousands of employers a month, and they have questions about things like wage and hour, things like leaves, things of that nature. You have access to us and our subject matter experts through this wonderful hotline. So please take advantage of it. Give us a call if you have a question. The people who will call you back or be available to talk with you have been doing this work for years, and they will give you some really sound guidance on that. So thank you to our counties for doing this and to supporting our employers in these counties, Central Valley. With that in mind, just who we are at California Employers Association. We've been around since the 1930s, believe it or not, and we provide human resources services and solutions to employers in California, in addition to employers outside of California who may have a presence here in California. They have employees here. And as all of you know, as employers, California is unique just in itself compared to the rest of the country. So, we stay on top of all of those current laws, regulations, things that are changing, and provide that support to employers. So that's who we are. And we want to give peace of mind to employers in California and support them so they can be even more successful in their business and not have to worry about some of those compliance issues that can get employers in trouble. With that in mind, a legal disclaimer is our attorneys tell us that we have to let you know we're not attorneys. We provide guidance, we provide information, up-to-date information around the issues surrounding human resources. And at times, sometimes there may be a need where you might require legal counsel. So if you call us and we talk with you and there is a need for you to go to your own legal counsel for something because of the nature of the situation, we'll let you know about that too and guide you. So we will provide guidance, but please know we don't provide legal advice. Quick question for you as you begin, but before I launch the poll, I wanted to let you know if you have any questions or comments or want me to cover something or clarify anything throughout this presentation, don't hesitate to put it in the chat box. My colleague Stephanie is available to take a look at anything that comes into the chat box, and she will answer it if she can, or she will let me know if someone has a question about something I've just covered or something that I am covering. So don't hesitate, don't be shy, feel free to use the chat box if you have any comments or questions. especially comments you want to share with the rest of our attendees here today, as well as any questions on any of the materials I'm covering. So one of the things I'd like to do is just get a sense of our audience here today to see what your experience has been so far, where you are with ChatGPT, which we'll be talking about today. So let me go ahead and launch a poll and just get a sense of where we are right now. And it's anonymous, so no one's going to know who answered which question. Good. Excellent. Okay, so let me share this with you, and you can see the results as well as I can. So as you can see, 3/4 of our folks here already have experience with ChatGPT. You have your own ChatGPT account, and about a third not just yet. So hopefully this will give you some information, and perhaps you'll want to set up a ChatGPT account. We'll go through a lot of things around ChatGPT that'll be useful to know. And then for those of you who are currently using it already, we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we're seeing, what we're hearing from companies, what we're using it for, and some of our recommendations around this too. And then lastly, some of the updates that have been occurring just in the last year. So thank you for taking the survey. All right, so I do have one more poll for you and one more question for you to answer, because I want to know how you're using ChatGPT today. For those who answered yes, the 3/4 of the folks who answered yes, please take a moment and tell us what you are using ChatGPT for today. So with that in mind, I'm going to launch one more poll. Here we go. Your choices are writing, research, ideas, personal use only, and you can pick more than one. It's not just one choice, or all of the above. Good, good. Okay, give everyone just another moment or two to answer it. All right. Okay, so let's take a look and share the results and see what we're using it for. All right, so most of us more than half tend to use it for writing. And I like to think of it as if anybody has ever made bread before, it's almost like a starter ingredient for making a loaf of bread or making some bread. To give us some ideas, some of us, when it comes to writing, are fabulous writers. We can start from with nothing and just go ahead and write. Some of us are far better at editing, getting ideas, making it our own. And that's what we have found as we've talked with folks all over the state. They tend to use it most for writing and to help give them ideas on some things that they're trying to do. As a matter of fact, I just spoke with someone recently who mentioned that they went to ChatGPT to get an idea of a recommendation letter they were going to write for a past employee. And they wanted to get a sense of how they should format it. And of course, you never want to use exactly what's on ChatGPT, but you can modify it to make it your own. And I'll talk more about that already. You want it to be authentic to you and not represent someone that's not you. We also have folks who use it for ideas, creativity, getting those thoughts, and gosh, have I thought of everything? Am I missing anything? So 18% of you there. Just one of you uses it for personal use. I use it for both business and personal, and it can be helpful. I found sometimes on the personal use side that sometimes when something happens in people's lives, how do you let them know you're thinking about them? How do you say something in a way that's supporting, comforting, and helpful? And ChatGPT has some great tips on that too. And then again, all of you, mentioned, 5 of you mentioned all of the above. So good, excellent. So we've got a good group here today, a group that has some knowledge around this, which is wonderful. All right. Okay, so just to touch on, for those of you who don't have an account yet, please put in the chat, what do you think ChatGPT is? For those of you perhaps that aren't using it, or those of you that do, if you were to describe it in one word, a couple of letters, anything that would be helpful, what would that be for you? How would you word it? Most of the time I hear AI. Most of the time that people, until they get into it, don't realize how much power, how much usefulness it can offer to us. But we all have an idea in our mind when we're trying to describe it to someone. And I see one person had a comment, inspiration. Yeah, good, good. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it does help us. It inspires us to get something done too when we see it can be done. So officially, the description for ChatGPT is AI powered, and it's a chat bot. It's been developed by OpenAI, and it uses deep learning techniques to generate human-like responses to text inputs in a conversational manner. One of the things I enjoy about it is it does allow you to, if you don't like the first answer, you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings when you say, give me another example. I need more examples. I need this. I need that. And it's very conversational. It's actually very polite to you when you ask it to do something. And what's so great about it is it's not really intelligent on its own. It has no ideas of its own. It's all based on existing information as it goes through the internet. It goes through what's happening, and it's constantly learning and acquiring new data. So you may ask ChatGPT something, a question 6 months ago, and then 3 months later, it may have already changed based on the data gathering that they do. And so knowing that it's not, a big brain unto itself, it really just draws from sources to give you information that's out there. And this is the actual founder of ChatGPT through OpenAI. This individual had been the person with OpenAI since 2015 when he co-founded the company with Elon Musk, X, Twitter, SpaceX, all of those things, and other tech luminaries with that goal of advancing AI for us and to do it in a safe and beneficial manner. So it gives you a sense of how long it's been being worked on for some time. And also, there's a lot of talk out there about ChatGPT too. And does there need to be some restrictions on it? How is that going to work for us moving forward? What do we need to know? And just as importantly, what do we need to do in our own workplace around this too? Do we allow it? Do we won't? And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that today because it is something that's been around since last year and it's continuing to expand. And it's continuing to expand across industries and also things around different types of subjects, health, things of that nature. And so we'll talk about some of the pros and the cons around ChatGPT also. And why, for many of you who are already using it, you probably already see a lot of the benefits around ChatGPT and how it can be helpful for you, career and personal life. And for those of you who haven't tried it, it really is potentially, changing the way we interact with human-like technology. And I joke about that, but when I say to ChatGPT, hey, I don't like your answer, give me another one, they're so pleasant. Oh, certainly. Here's some more examples, or here's some more information. You really feel like you're getting some interaction with someone with that human inclination and conversationally. And it really isn't just for the office. Here's an example from Mark Cuban, Dallas Maverick owner. He talked about how his 13-year-old just asked ChatGPT to write some trash talk about his buddy's favorite NFL team so he could text it to him. And it's pretty funny because when you think about, again, I touched on sometimes you want to send a note to someone, you want to be appropriate if something is happening in their lives, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it might be. ChatGPT can be really helpful. I personally used it to create forms at work to get some ideas on how to create something, whether it be a job description or a recommendation letter, or, I do a lot of recruiting consulting, and I also do some recruiting. And sometimes I have to let candidates know that they're not going to be selected. They've gone through the process. We really appreciated their time, their accomplishments, all of those things. So I wanted to, this for 2024, I wanted to put together a nice letter that would help let them know we appreciate it, keep us in mind for future openings. And I asked ChatGPT to start that for me, just to give me some ideas. And it was better than I would have written it, I believe. I am one of those who can work with some material and make it look really good. Yet starting it, I'm not as great as starting something from scratch as I am modifying, adjusting, and adapting it to a situation. And it's really fast too. You'd be surprised at how fast ChatGPT is. And the other thing, we're so used to Google. We're so used to going into Google to ask questions. And as you know, we ask a question and we get tons of responses. So with ChatGPT, it's very focused and it answers your question specifically, and it's extremely fast. You will have an answer in seconds. And it's even re-answers when you want more in seconds. This is another interesting thing about ChatGPT and how big and prolific it's becoming. Every one of us is familiar with Netflix, right? We love Netflix. Yet when we think about Netflix and some of the early stages of Netflix, my son was a very early adopter of Netflix with the DVDs, mailing them. He used to promote that all the time. He loved it. But you think about Netflix today versus years ago, it took Netflix 3.5 years to reach 1 million users. When you look at Facebook, it took Facebook 10 months to reach that level, 1 million users. And you take a look at Spotify and Instagram also, how long it took them. But take a look at ChatGPT. It took them 5 days to reach 1 million users. And the fascinating thing about this, the last time we did this presentation, I want to say it was early 2024, maybe late 2023. This was updated to 100 million users at the very bottom when I had the update. And then as I was preparing for this discussion with you today, ChatGPT has now reached 200 million users as of September of this year, 2024. And believe it or not, it has 1.5 billion visitors every month. And this is continuing to just snowball into sizes we have never imagined for a tool, for something that can be really useful if we use it in the right way and with purpose and intention. It definitely leads its peers when we look at some of these other products that are available to us. 200 million users, that's pretty impressive. Here's some copycats on around ChatGPT that have sprung up. Most of them are free, and also with ChatGPT, important to know, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to start using it, create an account, play with it. Yes, they do have a premium account and they have different levels of accounts. Last time I checked, and I don't know if it's changed yet, it was, I think, $20 a month for the premium. It may have increased since then. I don't know, or maybe it went down a little bit. But these are just some of the apps, and a lot of these apps do charge you. So knowing that ChatGPT is free, I would encourage you, play with it. If you haven't used it before, play with it, see if it's something, because it'll probably give you what you need versus having to go to a paid version or a premium version with ChatGPT. And what's interesting about this is there's so much discussion too about companies, colleges, universities getting smarter and smarter about this. And I'll touch on this in a couple of areas too. Again, making sure it's inspiration, as someone said earlier, yet it also, you have to be careful because remember, it has no creative thoughts of its own. It pulls from the internet, it pulls all the material out there. So we really need to be mindful if we're writing papers, if we're doing essays in college, if we're doing trainings, things of that nature, that we are not stealing someone else's information or violating copyright, that we are making it our own and adjusting so it is our own material. And a lot of universities now have a lot of tools to identify very quickly if something has been plagiarized, more than ever before. So important to know that, important to be aware of that. So here's some common applications that we're hearing about, that we're seeing, and I'm sure you can add to this list also. As you can see, for sales and marketing, creating content, asking ChatGPT, what's the current information out there around a campaign for this. What's the latest lead generation campaign that's out there right now that we can use? Give me an idea for a blog around leadership skills or employee retention or around communications for leaders or communications in the workplace. Give me some ideas around this so that I can use this to market some of the trainings and things that we're offering to our clients and to the public. Also with operations, it's able to automate tasks, data entry, scheduling reports, uh, customer support. I don't know how you feel about chatbots. Some people hate them, some people are neutral, some love them, but it is able to create those chatbots to answer questions and direct customers as needed. And then data analysis is able to help you with data analysis too, to provide insights and recommendations. And here's what employees are saying about ChatGPT at work. So as you take a look, similar to our group, a lot of folks, a third, use it for writing. And as you can see, for analyzing information, that customer support, a quarter, and again, this was in 2023. So if we were to look at it this year, maybe it's shifted a little bit, but if you take a look at the time, 27% used it for brainstorming, inspiration, innovation, creating ideas, giving me some places I can start to think about, putting an outline together, putting my thoughts together on paper to create what I'm going to create. Also helps with things like prioritization, scheduling, navigating tough conversations. I've heard a lot of folks ask, and one of the trainings we do at our company is managing conflict in the workplace. It's part of the workplace. It's part of life. It's what happens. It's, that's work, and conflict does happen. So people have said, I will go in there and I'll give ChatGPT an example of something and ask them how I should start this conversation, what I should say, what questions I should ask. Now, a word of caution when we think about ChatGPT: do not put your company name, do not put anybody's name in there, no identifying information. You want to make it as general as possible, because once it goes out to ChatGPT and somebody behind you comes up and asks for some information, they may be using some of the information you put in there to provide support for that next person. So you always want to be extremely careful about keeping it very general, so it doesn't come back to haunt you in the future. And then also, again, writing code, making strategic decisions. And the beauty of this is that you have that ability to just ask it questions. You have that ability to say, I really don't like that answer. I need something else. That's not what I asked you. Here's specifically what I need. And you can continue to pare it down and make it as specific as you need to be able to get the information, or at least some of the information that you need. And at the time that this survey was taken, they had asked 1,000 employees in the US around their thoughts and experience around the role of ChatGPT. As I mentioned earlier, we're a human resources and solutions company at California Employers Association. Here are some of the things that we use ChatGPT for. We use it for recruiting and onboarding. One of the things I mentioned earlier in the recruiting work that I do is I will ask ChatGPT, for example, to give me some ideas for a job description for, say, an engineer doing this type of work, and it will give me some ideas. And usually when I'm supporting clients, I will want to give them some ideas, or I will ask it, make this generic posting, zhuzh it up for me, make it more compelling to a candidate, and it will add some things to it to really speak to candidates as you're putting ads up on job boards. The saddest thing about recruiting right now, and even today, is that we have to make it compelling to those candidates who are going to look at your ad. If you have a vanilla ad up there amongst a sea of ads for similar positions, yours isn't going to stand out. And some of us aren't marketers. Some of us don't have a marketing department. ChatGPT can help you with that. When it comes to onboarding, for example, you can ask ChatGPT, give me some examples of really good onboarding programs or things I should consider in an onboarding program for our our new hires. Give me some ideas around that. You can ask it for questions around, give me some job descriptions or give me just for this type of a role. What are some things I should include in a job description for this type of a role? It can be very helpful for you as you continue to see the potential that it has. When it comes to employee engagement, give me an idea, ChatGPT, of some recognition programs that I can develop for my employee base. Give me some ideas for things I can do for training or development. What can I do in a situation where maybe we're not growing as much, but I still want to grow my employee skills where they are? Give me some ideas on how I can do that. And when we think about employee engagement, we want our good employees to always stay with us. We want that loyalty. We want that commitment to the company, that dedication. And there is a ton of information out there. If you're finding yourself perhaps in a situation where you want to improve communications amongst your employee group, you want to improve collaboration, you want to improve things around recognition, you can ask those questions and it can give you some ideas around things that maybe you're developing for your team. As you take a look at performance management, think about performance management of the past. Sometimes it's not as easy to do. Sometimes you're going to have tough questions or tough situations with your employees. Most of the time, hopefully, no performance management review or evaluation will be a surprise, but it's a way to provide feedback when we write those performance evaluations to help our employees. Again, we want to coach them to success, right? We want to coach them to be able to do well. And give me some talk paths that I can use or questions I can ask. Give me some ideas, ChatGPT. Again, these are just general things. You never want to put specific in there, but you want to be able to get some ideas. Again, that inspiration that someone so eloquently mentioned earlier. And then, of course, compliance and policies, asking questions of ChatGPT. What is happening currently in California with minimum wage? What's the current minimum wage? Things of that nature. You can ask those questions, but I'm going to touch on that a little bit more. And I just recommend when you do that part of it, trust but verify. Do it with caution because it's getting better about being updated, ChatGPT. But at one point, our own CEO at CEA, California Employers Association, asked ChatGPT, who's the current president, CEO of California Employers Association? And when they got the response, it was someone who was a CEO 20 years ago. What? So you have to make sure that if things of that nature where it's extremely important to have specific compliance answers, current, relevant, that you trust but verify. Some other things, HR tasks, things to think about, and you have the handouts. We give you a lot of information so that you can also use it in the future, but take a look. Here's some other things that can be very, very helpful for our HR folks, our hiring managers, those folks who are doing, several different things in their company to include interviewing and hiring. These are some things that they can, ChatGPT can give you some ideas on. It's also really helpful when you are, I mentioned, drafting emails or letters, even offer letters, you can get that online. Looking at, career development paths. Sometimes we're coaching our employees and they'll kind of give you a sense of what they want to do long-term with the company. How do I create that for that employee? I might go in and ask the question, please help me create a development path and plan for an entry-level employee who would like to be a manager of their department within 5 years. And it will give you ideas on things that you can do for that employee, things that that employee can do to get that exposure, credibility, the confidence to grow into that leadership role. It can also help you with market research on compensation too, give you an idea if you're offering, you're in the market value price too of your job offers. Do I have that range? In California, we have to have that range, salary range if we're posting jobs in the ad. So we want to make sure that we have the market value as close to accurate as possible, what that other companies are paying for that role, so that we can get candidates to apply with us. Recruiting and onboarding, a couple of other things to think about with recruiting and onboarding. I touched on a few, but interview questions too. If you are going to be interviewing, and maybe it's a new position, maybe it's something that's unique at your company. Well, hopefully you all have a set of questions that you ask. You're pretty consistent in your recruiting process, but you have consistent questions that you ask that are important to know about a candidate coming into your organization. But if you're running into something that maybe it's a new role or a little bit different, or it's going to adjust somewhat, you want to make sure that you're asking those questions that will help you assess what the candidate has done in the past. Past performance will predict future performance. And those behavioral questions, tell me about a time when you had to resolve a conflict between you and a colleague on your team. Tell me the situation, what action you took, and what was the result. That gives you insight into a candidate's mind about how they handle conflict, how they handle collaboration, situations in the workplace. And ChatGPT can give you some examples. You can say, give me some behavioral questions for an interview to gauge someone's conflict management skills. And it'll give you some things, and then you can say, give me some more, and it'll give you a sense of how I want to ask these questions, especially if there's some things within your company towards certain areas that are really important to get that job done. Onboarding, can't say how important it is enough, because onboarding is not the first day, it's not the first week. It really does go on for at least that year. And the reason it does is because we learn so much as new employees when we join a company, as things happen. An orientation is always really important, but your orientation needs to include things that are important to the company, to employees, things like the mission, the culture, values, history, products, services, important policies, all of those things. And we always want to make sure that we have an onboarding process. If I'm bringing in a really experienced employee, I may not need to do as much, especially if they've come from a very similar industry. There's some pieces I have to do to acquaint them with our company, yet they know the job. But if I'm bringing in someone brand new, maybe they've never really had a professional job in their life, there's a lot more that I'm going to have to do. So as you look at this list, you can go in and say, ChatGPT, what would be the most important times I should check in with a new employee? And they may give you 5 or 6 answers. Choose what would work best for you. You may already have some things in your company that you already do, but if you need some new ideas, this can be very helpful. You can ask it, what's the benefit of assigning a mentor, and what type of mentor should I assign? Again, gives you ideas into your thinking process and how you should approach something. Also, job seekers use it also. And this is just a, buyer beware for everyone on the call today. Very interesting. An actual job seeker went viral, and she talked about how she couldn't get a job, couldn't get a response on her resumes, on her submissions to companies. And then she decided that she was going to use ChatGPT to help her with her cover letters, with her resume. And lo and behold, she landed 3 job offers in the span of 10 days, believe it or not, after submitting targeted resumes generated by ChatGPT. Now, having said that, this was last year. So we are now a year smarter, and we know a lot more about ChatGPT. And what we are finding now, and if you do any research on this at all, you will find that companies are being very careful now when they're getting some of these resumes, because they want the resume to match the person. And that's where I talked a little bit earlier about authenticity, making sure that you use it as starter dough for thinking that loaf of bread, not as the final thing you're going to submit. I do a lot of coaching with job seekers, people in career transition. And one of the things that I share with them is, as you look at what ChatGPT may have given you when you ask them, how do I word this or how do I do this cover letter? It gives you those ideas, but put it in your words, your resume. Make sure that what's on your resume is something you don't even have to look at to speak to, because you know your resume inside and out. And it's in your own words, your own experience, your own knowledge, your own skills. If you go too far on the Chat GPT, they may ask you a question and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to answer that? And so employers are getting a lot smarter about some of the resumes that are coming across. And like I said, as you're hiring, beware of that too. If it's too good to be true, sometimes it is. So it's always beneficial to make sure that you compare it to what you're seeing and talking with the candidate. It has to be authentic because you're hiring the person, not their resume. I hope that's helpful a little bit. And I caution job seekers on that all the time too. You want to show up your best authentic self, and you should not even have to refer to your resume when you're talking about your experiences. You've lived it, you know it. What ChatGPT cannot do for you, and this is important to remember, it's not going to think for you. You're the one that's going to put that information in. It's going to spar some additional thoughts or innovation for you, yet it's not a brain. It doesn't have original thoughts. So that's going to come from you. It's not going to have personal interactions with you. Yes, it's very polite. It'll respond to you, things of that nature, but it's not going to give you that personal interaction. No empathy or emotions. So something to think about when we think about empathy or emotions. Forbes 2 years ago said the most important leadership skill is having empathy, having that ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, looking at something from the other person's point of view, their perspective, why they're responding or reacting this way. And ChatGPT can't do that for you. That's where you come in, and you've got to add your layer of information, of knowledge and skills to whatever they may have shared with you as you put whatever you're doing together for that employee. It's not going to provide you the most current information all of the time. Now, what I will say, it's gotten better. Back when it started last year, we were getting information current as of 2021. Some of the things I'm finding now, and I believe you get more with the premium. Yet today, I was actually asking ChatGPT for, what's the current California wage for fast food? And it gave me information current as of January 2024. So it's getting better. Back to getting better, trust but verify, especially on those things where it's rules, regulations, things of that nature, where every detail has to be accurate. It can't read body language. It's not going to be able to pick up on anything at all. It's not going to know your company culture. It has no context for it. Remember, it's just a data. It can gather data, bring it to you, but it's not going to be able to know what you know about your company culture. It's not going to understand nuances in language, sarcasm, or humor. And it's pretty funny because you can say things to ChatGPT that would offend a normal person, and it's going to come back, oh, sure, thank you, certainly, let me give you this. So it has no nuances in any language at all. Not going to provide personal advice. It's not going to make a call for you. It'll give you recommendations, but you're going to make that decision. So the power still is with you. The control is still with you. And obviously it can't jump out of the computer or the cloud or wherever the heck it is and come and do physical work. So keeping that in mind when we think about ChatGPT in terms of, our comfort level with it also. We're not replaceable yet. Not as humans, not yet. And then talking about engagement and performance management with ChatGPT, a couple of thoughts to keep in mind as we think about, how we work with our employees, how we do recognition with our employees, and performance management with our employees. It can provide you some guidance. Most of our companies already work with a system. They have a process for performance management. You do a check-in at least once a year, annual review for the prior year, January through March, all of those things. We all have a process around that. And so keeping that in mind, you can ask it a question. So for example, I'm writing a performance review for my employee named Sally. And Sally's doing a really good job, and I want to give her some tips, things to focus on in the future for the following year to help her become even more successful and more confident. So I might ask ChatGPT, how can I ask Sally to be more assertive in the coming year around this area or around this area? And it can help you in maybe modifying your review, what you've already put together, to make it come across in a way that you're more comfortable with. Like I said, not all of us are great at putting thoughts on paper originally, or some of us struggle with writing in general. It can help you to create a product that you're proud of, that you feel good about. Because when we're doing performance reviews, especially, that's our employees. And we've all been victims of horrible performance reviews that weren't well thought out, all the way to really great ones that we still remember from those great leaders that we've had. So it makes a difference on how you show up as a leader too. And this is where we want to be very careful. I touched on this already. Back when we were asking questions of ChatGPT last year, it was not giving us accurate information. Remember, I said when it started, it was only up to date as of 2021. So just beware of the fact that you want to trust a part of it, but verify it also, because it may not be 100% updated. Even in California, we may have one set of rules and regulations, but in counties, they may be modified also. So it's important to make sure that you're being as specific as you can, and then you also check it and make sure you're accurate on those things. Again, where details and accuracy are imperative. And so this is interesting. I had asked ChatGPT, "How current are you?" I went into the internet too to ask that same question. And here's where we are now. The knowledge is it says up until April 2023, and yet when I went in and asked some information earlier about wages, it gave me as of January 2024. So it's still improving. It's not 100% yet, but important to just, again, make sure you check it because, again, it's being built as we go along. It's being, enhanced and improved as we go along. So whatever information that you put into ChatGPT, if it's specific around your company, and or people or situations with identifying information, it's out there for the world. And again, ChatGPT is not really intelligent, so it has no ideas of its own. It's based on what's out there, and it constantly learns, again, acquiring that data, including anything you post. So be mindful of that. If, for example, a recruiter wants to give a hiring manager a quick summary of candidates, ChatGPT can summarize resumes well, but if you put someone's whole work history in there and identifying information, that's a breach of privacy. So you want to be careful. Be careful of any bias or errors in the information. It can be biased. I mean, artificial intelligence, we've seen already, just even this year, it can be biased based on what's out there, what's put in there. It's only as good as the programmers and their data sets. It's important to be mindful of that, and sometimes they are flawed. Also, keep it in mind if you want to use it, and if you haven't used it but you're still thinking about it. We get that human resistance to change. We don't like to change, yet this is something that's coming at us very quickly. And as I shared before, reaching 200 million users in the span of such a short time is mind-boggling. So again, opening our minds to it, giving it a shot, and just doing it, with the information you have, the tips and things that you have to be careful with. So again, continuing to be mindful that you're responsible for what your company does. So if you're putting things out there, make sure that it's something that you're comfortable with the whole world to see, and you don't want to violate any privacy. And then some things that I touched on earlier, it does come with legal risks, and folks, these are still happening, still going on. Organizations can face legal risk, copyright infringement, privacy violations, and plagiarism that I talked about before. And it's important to think about for your company establishing a generative AI policy and keeping in mind that if we are going to allow it for our company, we want to make sure that we have some rules and guidelines for our own organization. And we at CEA, we do have some guidelines around ChatGPT, what we can use it for, what we should not use it for, things to be mindful of. So these are things to be thinking about as it continues to expand, it continues to grow, and how you can make it valuable for your company and not cause you any problems in the long run with this. So real simply, and this is in your handout too, it shows you how to set up a chat GPT account. Very easy to do. And you can register with a valid email address, pick your password, create an account like we do with just about everything else in our lives these days. But it'll help you to do that. Use a really secure password. This is one time you want to make sure that no one has access to your account. But make sure that if you do set up that password, that you set it up, and do it in a way that you're the only one that has that access. But I encourage you, play with it. There's no cost to it. It's something that can be helpful for you and something that can be beneficial for you in the long run. So here's a question for all of you. I have many of you on the line with me today in this webinar, and I want to ask you this question in the form of that poll. And I want to know what you think. Should you allow employees to use it at work or not? And again, please feel comfortable speaking your mind because it's all confidential. It's all anonymous. So here's the poll for you. Here we go. Give me just a moment. For some reason, this is not allowing me to launch this poll. Let me try one more time. Nope. Okay. Well, folks, for some reason, devil's in the details with technology. Sometimes it's not launching the poll. But what is it for you? What is it for you? Do you think, are you already allowing it in the workplace? Are you not? Let me take a look at the chat room on this. Let me close this out. I'm going to let that go. Yeah, so we're seeing some folks who say yes, it really depends. I agree, it depends on what we're doing, the role that you have, and the reason for using it. And it can be a real a time saver for you too. The question I would just ask of all of you is really talk about it in your company too. Have a discussion with it, with that guidance. People say, yeah, with the right guidance and the understanding of what we want to use it for and not use it for. Absolutely. And as we think about this, questions you can ask if you're not using it or it's not something you brought up. What are the advantages and limitations in our business? What would be great for us to use it for? And then someone said role and responsibilities. Who should be able to use ChatGPT? No one's prevented from setting up an account. They can use it for their personal life. But what should that be? And there has to be, like we're talking about today, a bit of an understanding around this too. And do you have a policy around the use of AI or ChatGPT in your company? Is it in your handbook? How have you, something to think about? We're getting closer to the end of 2024, which I can't even fathom. Yet, are you thinking about it for 2025? Do we need to open up the discussion around this? And then again, trust and verify. What is a starter dough, as we like to say? When you're making bread, it's just a rough draft. It's an idea. It's inspiration. But considerations for you to do in your own meetings with your folks. So some key takeaways around ChatGPT. It really is a powerful tool, and it can make a difference for you when it comes to increased efficiencies, productivity, getting some things that you need right away. I've got to get this out right away, and I only have 10 minutes. It can really be helpful when you're in that type of a mindset, or you're even thinking through, give me an outline for a workshop with this. Give me an outline for a meeting agenda. It gives you great meeting agendas too. It does have those serious limitations that you want to consider. before you implement it in your business, and knowing what those limitations are, because we don't want to be on the wrong side of it. I have a sense there's going to be a lot more talk around this as time goes on. So I would recommend try it, do it with, with certain understanding in your company, and be aware of some of the, again, the pitfalls. And then also it can disrupt our HR industry too, and other industries. But the verdict or the jury's out on that still. We don't know what it's going to be. As I mentioned, it's not a human. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have this. It can't read body language. All of those things, it's going to have an impact. But how do we work that to be able to free ourselves up to do other things that are important to our roles, and continue to stay abreast of the changes within ChatGPT? It's really important because something can change pretty quickly, and it's important for you and your teams to be aware of it. With that in mind, any questions on what I've covered so far? I'm going to show you a demonstration of it for those of you who haven't used it, but any questions on anything that I've covered so far before I demonstrate a little bit on ChatGPT? Anything at all? Give me just a second in case you have any thoughts or questions you want to ask. Okay. All right, well, let's play with it a little bit. And you can still ask me questions. If you put it in there, Stephanie will read it, and she will help us with that. So let's just go in and play with this a little bit. So let me stop sharing. Let me bring this up here. Let's see. Okay. Are you able, Stephanie, are we able to see my screen yet? Not yet? Let me do it again. Hold on.
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Can you see it now?
It is just starting, and we also just had a question come through if we want to address that real
Yes.
quick.
Yes.
Someone was asking if ChatGPT can create forms.
It can create a template for a form, and you can make it into your own form with all the headers, the footers, all the, have it looked at legally, whatever it might be. It can create some for you. It may be able to bring some for you, but let's just ask it a question. Let's say, based on that question, please give application hiring. Let's see what it says. So what it will do, if you take a look at this question, which can still be very helpful, I can help you design an application form for hiring or providing you with a general template. If you're looking for a downloadable form, you might find one on websites like Indeed or Google Docs templates. And then it gives you a basic application form. So it'll give you the starting information. But the other thing that's nice about it too is that it gives you templates to download. And for example, just for an application, for example, you want to make sure that it's California specific. So what I would encourage you to do again is to use it as a starter. You can go to Indeed, the templates that are out there, but you want something specific to California, because there's some things we can and can't ask on an application in California. Like I said, we're a world unto ourselves in California, and we never know, things are always changing compared to the rest of the world. So let's ask it something like, let's see, I talked about recruiting. Give me some sample behavioral has spell check too, which is good for those of us who go too fast and don't always have the most perfect spelling. So give me a moment here. Let me fix that. Sometimes Word says, what are you telling me, Jessica? Interview.
While you type that in, can I jump in with another great comment from somebody in the chat box? We've had a lot of people putting their use cases for ChatGPT in the chat box. And someone just mentioned that they use it for a training template and also use it to create a bare bones PowerPoint. And those are excellent
Yeah.
examples of how you start off, you use ChatGPT for your first draft, and then you can really add the meat to your presentation with that bare bones template. It's a great suggestion. Thank you.
It's so important, and it helps you as your thought process when you ask it the PowerPoint template or an outline for a workshop or an outline for a meeting or a retreat if we're going away for a day. But take a look. I asked it some questions. I asked it to give me some sample behavioral questions for an engineer. I was just doing some consulting on an engineer role recently, and it asks you it gives you some sample questions. Give me a time, describe a time when you encountered a major technical issue on a project. How did you approach solving it? um, on collaboration, can you give me an example of a time you had to work closely with other departments to complete a project? How do you ensure effective collaboration? These are questions that you can ask, and these are questions you can arm your hiring managers with too, because when you're consistent in the recruiting process with the questions we ask of every candidate, it gives you that ability to compare and contrast on candidates that you have and how they answered questions. At one time, I was doing some recruiting in the legal field, and I was asking attorneys, tell me about a time when you and the judge in a trial didn't see eye to eye. How did you handle it? What did you do? And because I was interviewing for a trial attorney, this was important for me to know. Remember, past performance predicts that future behavior. And it gives you an idea, not what they're going to do. I don't want the theoretical, the future stuff. I want to know what you've done, because that helps me understand what you're capable of. Anyone else have any questions you want me to ask ChatGPT? Let's see. Stephanie, you have anything you want me to ask? Oh, let's see. Let's give it, you know what? Let's do this one. Give me an outline for an onboarding program for new employees. Let me fix my spelling again. And I was a spelling bee champ at one time. Go figure. Here we go. Let's see what it says. Oh. Let's see. Hold on, Steph. I got something else coming up. Okay. Is it showing up okay, Steph?
Yes, it is. It's coming up with a
There you
nice
go.
outline, starting with pre-onboarding.
There you go. Even before day one, it gives you day one orientation, things to think about, to consider. Settling in. Week one, they're settling in. Do they have a desk? Do they have their tools? Do they have a mentor? Do they have a buddy system? Their first month. So these are some of the things that ChatGPT can give you. And again, you're asking the question in a very generic way. So you copy it, you use what you want to use for it, you make it your own, you put it in your own words, your own company culture, all of those things. But take a look. This is a great starter dough, isn't it? It's something that you can absolutely use moving forward, and not be afraid of it. I'm going to stop sharing only because I want to just bring myself up, but this is a way for you to be able to do things that maybe you haven't thought of before. So for those of you who have used it before, absolutely keep using it. For those of you that haven't, um, uh, you know, give it a shot. Keep using it. To create the account, play with it a little bit. And let me go ahead and bring up our final slide for today. If you don't have any questions, is the screen looking okay, Steph?
We can actually see your notes section and your next slide section.
That's okay. For purpose of right now, let me just leave it as such, only
Okay.
because we're short on time. But we do have the training code stuff. If I can bring that up if you could bring those up and share those with folks who are
I
looking for
would
the HRCI codes.
I would love to. For anybody looking for your continuing education credits, we've got HRCI codes. They're in the chat box and I'll read them out loud for you. 676498. And if you're looking for your SHRM credits, that is 24 hyphen, the hyphen is very important, 24 hyphen T T Z 4N as in Nancy. So again, those are in the chat box if you need those, and those are for professionals looking to get their HRCI or their SHRM certification.
Great. And then our next slide, just another shout out to Central Valley for providing this hotline for all of you. And then I want to let Stephanie just bring us home.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. That was very helpful. I love using ChatGPT as a Starterdo is the perfect phrase for it. It's such a great first draft. If I ever have a creative writing block, it's fantastic. And also something that's very fun to do if you're just playing around with ChatGPT. Ask it to make things more exciting and ask it that a few times, and it'll get so much more excited throughout. It's really fun to watch how it just escalates everything. Um, all right, so here's the survey that we mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar. Just a quick QR code. Snap a picture of that with your phone. A survey will pop up. It won't take more than a minute or two to complete. I promise it is very short. We would love to get your feedback. Let us know how Jessica did. Let us know what topics you'd like to see in the future. And we use these comments to constantly improve on our webinars. So with that, we hope to see you next time. Please have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure to be with you today.